So my refutation is going to be about dismissing Mo's theory on, or claim of fact, on aliens and their underlying proof. My backup sources are going to be, he talked about the pyramids having like power structure, and he talked about how Stonehenge being basically just ended up there when it was actually built. And he also talked, his second one was about mass confirmation and how it proves that they exist, or in my sense, not exist. And then last of all, I'm going to be talking about his reference to Christopher P. Dunn. So my first one is about pyramids and Stonehenge. Stonehenge was built over 5,000 years ago. There's not that much proof on not how it was built, but just the different processes, because when I visited Stonehenge, you're not allowed to go near it. They have fencing around it. But before you used to go near it, you used to be able to go all the way up to the stones. And now since it's more preserved, they don't allow that. And because it's an actual artifact. So they have information on it. I want to say, I didn't write it down. But it didn't just appear over time like he assumed, or he had said it did. It was actually built through pieces. The pyramids, he put that they are relevant to power sources, speaking about how they built an aqueduct. But an aqueduct is basically like a water stream. It's basically like a water stream to help you like get over like a bridge or something. It's just water. And I didn't know how relevant that was, because if they could build an aqueduct, then they would modify kind of the pyramid. So you can't really just say that the pyramid had full power structure, saying that the pyramid gave off power if they're already putting enhances to it in the inside. So I didn't see how that correlated with it giving power sources to alien life form. My second one was mass confirmation. He was saying that the Puritans had talked, Puritans are people who don't lie, who don't cheat, who basically are honest people. And no doubt about it that Puritan, I wouldn't say that they're liars or any source, but what his reference was that in a diary they had written about UFO sightings. But if you guys remember when you were younger, you played the game telephone, where you say one word and then you just pass it down the line. So that story, now being 2017, that story could have changed over time. He referenced in Mexico that there was a blue stream of light that happened, if you could see it on like if you look at the globe from outer space. I was looking up alien videos, and there was one video that stood out to me a lot that they said that they used the caption of the video was, I'm in Denver, and basically what it kind of looked like a scene from Chicken Little, but it was like actual, like the world, where there was a blue spacecraft and it just went into the sky. And at first I was like, oh, maybe. But then I read up on it, and there was one that said the exact same thing, but it was from Mexico. Same video and everything. So it kind of made his source, like the sources of it, invalid, because there was nothing on the news about it. There was nothing that was brought. They didn't know what city it was from, so there was nothing you could find within the people to have said anything. So my last one is going to be about Christopher P. Dunn. He had mentioned how Christopher P. Dunn studied the pyramids. He had made 5 trips to the pyramids. Nonetheless, I'm pretty sure when he went to the pyramids, he actually studied them in depth. But as a person studying the pyramid and writing books on the pyramids, I would just say, my way of saying it is, I could go to a vacation spot my whole life and I wouldn't know it enough, even if I studied it, to be able to say for sure this is the facts on it. You would need some backup sources. There wasn't any sources saying that he went to school for this or anything. It was just he was into this hobby and he looked into it and visited the pyramids. Another thing it was, he said, we cannot fathom technology that is unknown to us and seldom consider things that seem impossible to us. Technology, before you do it, is always unknown to everybody. And for him to use technology as a source of reasoning for the pyramids, if he was the only one who understood it, how much of alien life form could you have brought to your people's knowledge if you didn't know anything about it and there was no other evidence? He didn't go further in depth. And then my last one was basically saying that his sources weren't that credible for the information. He had really good points and really good evidence, but none of the sources that I could find on his bibliography was enough to just take it that step further and really be like, okay, I agree with this. So all in all, I had to kind of dismiss this whole theory about alien life form and their underlying proof, and feeling like there was never any justifications for alien life form. Because especially nowadays, people say alien could be anything. People use illegal immigrants and they use them as a form of alien. They call them aliens because it's something that they don't know. Like, the true definition of alien is something that you're not familiar with. And his alien life form could have been like immigrants and they have information on it, but he tried to say that technology that nobody knew was a source of finding the alien life form from a different world, I guess. But that is my speech on just who wanted to say that, so that's it. I like saw you looking through the window. I was like, I'm supposed to distract, but well, I like lost my train of thought when I saw you.
All right, well, you tried to preview the advocate's claim, and I think maybe some of the difficulty might have had to do with the original organization of the advocate's argument. Your secondary points, though, you do distinguish between three main ideas: the pyramids, mass confirmation, and then you're jumping all over Christopher Dunn as a source. The pyramid stuff, you don't make a claim here. You just kind of talk about what's going on here. Finally, there's one point where you say there's no proof. I'm going, okay, this is the start of a claim, and then it's just as you kind of go off on this tangent about the water stream and the power that's going on. I'm going, okay, well, I barely remember that from the first argument. I'm not exactly sure how your argument undermines what the advocate was saying, so I'm not convinced. I'm not sure I was convinced with the original argument, but I can certainly say I'm not sure that I can say that the argument is hooey based on what you've said. So that's a little bit problematic. I thought you were a little bit better on the mass confirmation argument, where you kind of take the comment from the Puritan diary and you put it in a context that suggests, we're trying to interpret something from 400 plus years ago and make an inference about whether or not aliens existed based on this, and it could very easily be something similar to an experience that people have playing the telephone game. Okay, that might be true, except of course whatever's written in the diary is written the same. It's not like it was passed on. I think you probably want to look at the language that was being used specifically. Lights in the sky could be a lot of things, Yeah. Now, if it said these 3-foot green guys showed up, that would be a little bit different. Does it say that? I don't know. I don't remember what was said in the Puritan diary, and your answer to it, I think, is a pretty good one, but I think it would be better if you had some specific reference to it. I was a little bit confused at first when you were talking about the light issue, because you started giving me this thing about the video from Denver, and ultimately, I think I figured out that what you're saying is that this is potentially a hoax video that has been attributed to places like Denver and like Mexico, and therefore you can't really trust what's going on there. And there's no independent verification of it. It wasn't reported in news media. I think that's probably pretty good. Of course, is it the same incident that the advocate's talking about? That would be helpful if we could know for sure that it's the same incident. But I think your challenge there is a pretty good one. The challenge against Dunn, the first question that I have is, did you Google this guy and figure out what the hell he's done? Because all you do is kind of respond and say, well, he's been to the pyramid 5 times. Look, I've taken vacations 5 times to Disneyland. That doesn't make me an expert on Disney. I mean, hypothetically, wherever you happen to go, that doesn't make me an expert on that particular subject. Okay, well, that's a press. That's the kind of thing that you might say if you had no time to prepare, you're just standing up and responding immediately, well, that would be the first thing that you would say. He's not a published author. There is nothing online that indicates that he has written any book whatsoever. He's a passing reference on a website that the advocate consulted. That's what you ought to say. All right, so that's the kind of thing that you would say. But what I'm saying is, what you said is the kind of thing that you would say 10 seconds after he presented, well, who the hell is Christopher Dunn?
Yeah.
Which is not a bad question to ask, but it's just a question, it's not an argument, and it's you had a couple of weeks to get ready, and
Yeah.
there needed to be a little bit more done there.
No,
A little bit more done there. All right. And then the stuff that you get into where you're talking about how people use alien in different ways, I don't know that that has any application to anything that the advocate talked about. It really feels like you kind of went off on a tangent there. Okay, thank you.